This topic is actually kind of a sensitive thing. I can't really explain or describe it. It's just some people have a lot of feelings, I guess you could say, about this. Thing is, TIG welding is largely based on preference. Yeah, preference. I mean, there's 1,001 ways to make a cat talk on YouTube, but if the point of my lesson is that you need to figure it out yourself, and I don't even have a cat to make talk, how do I hold somebody's attention for that long in a video? That's not to say that I think videos of talking hands are pointless. It basically means that I have a topic that I have to cover that involves TIG welding, and for some reason, I'm not sure that I can really hold your attention if I'm no more than a talking head with no talking cat. So I had to search around a little bit. I had to get some inspiration, if you will. I had to do some digging. And since they give pretty much a YouTube channel to just about anybody, I quickly found out that after his 7 years on CBS, he kind of disappeared, bought some metalworking tools, and moved to a cold bunker somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And since his face is recognizable, he obviously doesn't want anybody to know. But, I mean, who would have thought Ray Romano would be so good at making YouTube videos? Alright, I'm not really sure how long I can keep this going here, but long story short, a while back, I made a video about a fish pump in a bucket of water that served as a temporary TIG cooler. Now the whole point of that video was to show you that you had something that'll get you by, get you enough, get you started, get you something that will basically serve as a temporary stepping stone until you can buy a TIG cooler. Now, shortly thereafter, I got an email from a guy named Jeff Nolan, who is the head honcho of HTP Welding and USA Weld, and he said, I'll probably never sell another TIG cooler again, so hey, why don't I just send you one? I said, well, Jeff, I don't think you have much to worry about since you have a quality product, and $12 TIG coolers aren't a good permanent solution, but I'd love to have it. That's super generous. So Jeff promptly sent out an HTP Arctic Chill non-copyright infringing Slurpo machine, along with a CK Worldwide 20 flex head and 2 gallons of HTP coolant. I was just blown away. I really was. I was very excited to receive this machine in parts, but very nervous at the exact same time. I mean, how do you compare yourself to the likes of Alan Alda when he took his HTP Arctic Chill apart and made it extremely quiet? I mean, that's a lot to contend with, but I guess I digest. The thing is, this machine actually couldn't come at a better time. I mean, I've been trying to put together a video about stacks and dabs, all about welding and dabs on aluminum and the frequency and the settings and stuff like that, and it's a lot of welding. All I really know is that stuff gets extremely hot and I have no interest in setting my hands on fire with a TIG torch. And speaking of hands, that's what you're going to see. My hands. Just like this. So the thing is, a lot of people ask all the time, how do you get that signature stack? How do you dab it? Which is correct? Do you dab them tight? Do you dab them loose? Do you go fat stacks? Do you go wide? Do you go tall? Which one is the best? Well, there isn't really an answer. So here's what you need to do. Grab your torch, whatever it is that you like, however you like to normally set it up. The idea is to make this very familiar to you. So whatever you normally run, that's what you need to run. In this case, I have the CK20 Flex. It's a water-cooled version. I'm hooked up to my Invertig 221 from HTP as well. And it is outfitted with my normal aluminum welding selection. That's a 332nd tungsten, a number 5 cup, no gas lens. It's nothing fancy, nothing special. But whatever it is that you use, that's what you need to use. This is what I use. Now, if there's one thing you can take away from this, it's this saying right here. There is no right or wrong, as long as the result is correct. If the result is a correct weld, the way that you like to lay it down, using whatever gear you have, that's the correct result. Nobody else can say it's wrong. Next, grab something to weld on. Now this is just some 1/8 inch or 3mm aluminum, 6061 variety, nothing fancy. There is nothing about this that has had special prep or anything. Straight off the saw, it's been wiped down with some acetone. You can even see there's oils, smears, everything else like that on it. We don't care. We're not worried about it. We just want to lay down a weld. So there's my stack. That's how I weld. This is the way I do it. And if you don't like it, we can't be friends anymore. Now, if you ask me to do the same weld a dozen times over on a flat coupon, 1/8 inch thick, this is what it would look like. Now, there's a plethora of welds to choose from. I mean, maybe I don't want to do it just like this. Maybe I want to do it a different way. I mean, I'm on Instagram all the time. I see the way some people lay down some stacks, and I wonder, should I be able to do that? Can I actually do that? I mean, what does it really take to do that? I mean, there's nothing really wrong with trying something new, and ultimately diversity in your welding portfolio or your ability to make different types of welds and situations is going to make you a better welder. So let's try something. Maybe I want 2 to 3 times what I got dabbed on here. I want the tightest possible stack I can get. So I'm going to pick up the torch and I'm going to give it a shot. All right, no shame. This is not my style. It's just not my go-to type of stack. But you know what? I gotta try. I went over this again inside my head. I sit there and think about it. Well, I got choked up a few times. I wasn't quite sure. I didn't really commit to this weld. I mean, it's not you, it's me. I got all these little spots where I paused a bit, had to adjust the rod. I think I was just a little ill-prepared. So let me try this again. A little more prepared this time. Still not quite right. Let me try something else real quick. All right, let's have a look. Well, that's actually a far cry greater than the first one that I laid down, but of course, looking at the first one and understanding where the problem was is what helped me get through the second one. But after I laid the second one down, I just still wasn't quite impressed. There had to be something on here that I needed to do again. So I changed it up a little bit. I kept the same machine settings that I had, same frequency, same balance, same amperage range, and of course I smashed it down to the floor. But I found that there was an inconsistency in my dabs. What I mean is, when I was dabbing in on the 1/16 inch filler rod, I had to dab in a lot. I had to really push it to keep that stack in there because the heat was pretty much on. You gotta commit to something like this. So if I was pushing like crazy to keep 1/16 filler rods stacked up and tight, that means I can use a larger filler rod, say 3/32 of an inch, and I can put in less of a dab of 3/32 to equal the amount that came from the 1/16. That means I can go further without having to readjust my grip, and the stack stays more consistent. I almost like this. I mean, it could be a little bit better, but what if I want to do, say, something wider? I mean, this has a bit of a crown still sitting on the top of it, but I kind of want to go the same type and same consistency of this, but I want it to be a wider stack. I want it to kind of flood out and wet out just a little bit more. So what are my options? Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to play around with some frequency settings here. I'm going to go down to 60 hertz. That's actually what I learned to weld on, 60 hertz on 50/50. I'm going to keep the balance the same, but I'm going to go down to 60. There. Now we can be friends again. Well, that definitely looks a little bit fatter. Good uniformity. I kind of dig it. Now, if you compare it to the first one, that's a little tight. This one seems a little more uniform, a little more wetted in, a little bit less of just sitting on top. I actually really like it. Like this came out a lot better. So let me clean off my first weld, my normal weld. You remember the first one I laid down. Now you can see I've got about, 2-3 times, maybe 4 times the amount of dabs that I have in the tight stack that I have on my regular stack. And that's totally awesome because I now have 2 welds in my arsenal that I can play with. That's awesome. But then I got to think, what if I can do something totally different? I got my normal stack, I got my tight stack. Maybe I want a fat dabbing loose stack. You know what? I can live with this. I mean, it's not terrible. I mean, it's got some uniformity. I started out a little bit hot, then I kind of got a little off track in the middle here. I feel like there was something just missing in this. Maybe that something was some control, just a little bit extra something. It felt like I was a little bit hot, almost too hot. That I was juggling everything with my foot, trying to get it just right. So let me try changing the frequency on this real quick. I'm going to go back up to 110 hertz where I'm comfortable welding, and this little stack here, this should actually kind of even itself back out. Now, if I've been able to keep your attention for this long, sweet. Thanks for sticking around. But here we go. This is the weld that I laid down. If I haven't bored you enough, you'll notice that this is not the next weld in the sequence. There's actually one above this weld. It's actually right here. I somehow escaped my brain and just threw down a regular old pass until I realized that wasn't a fat dab, so here's the fat dab. Now, here's the deal. Similarly to the problem that I had earlier where I wasn't feeding enough rod in there, now it feels like I'm feeding too much rod in there. So when you grab a hold of a 3/32 rod and it feels like you're over dabbing, or it seems like you can't reduce the amount that goes into it per dab, you need to actually grab a hold of a smaller diameter filler rod than the one you're running. Because remember, we can always add the dab, we can always add more metal, but we can't necessarily take the metal away or reduce it as easily per the stack. So I'm going to switch it down to 1/16. Then try again. Now that seems to fit the bill for a fat dab just right. I started out a little bit cold, but you know the regular consistency, about 3-4 dabs in, I was right on point, right where I need to be for a fat dabbing, big, wide stack. Now that's pretty awesome. I kind of want to leave this a little bit open-ended here. I'd really like to know what you guys would like to know in order to continue on with this lesson. See, the thing is, there's really nothing to learn here other than you gotta learn. You literally have to just pick up the torch and kind of go and do your thing with it. Don't be afraid to try some different settings and all the rest of that good stuff to really develop that style that you have to develop. I mean, it's really important that you be not afraid to try something out and literally just experiment a little bit, you know. Try to mess some stuff up, you know. You learn that way, and I'd really like to help you along the way, so go ahead and post up what you got to post up down below. I can't guarantee I'm going to come back like this old Tony or anything like that, but, you know, I mean, you know, here's the deal. Just go ahead and post up your questions about welding aluminum below. I've got some future episodes in mind, things like discovering AC frequency and balance control, and of course, you know, the offsetting, AC bias, asymmetric wave. It's pretty much just going to go where we take it, so let me know. And if you haven't heard of this old Tony, something is definitely wrong with you. Just in case you're not familiar, there's a link in the description below. Thanks for watching.